गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीबडी, वेलकम टू क्यूरियस माइंड्स। आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है वो है सोशियोलॉजी क्लास 12th की बुक सोशल चेंज एंड डेवलपमेंट इन इंडिया का सेकंड चैप्टर कल्चरल चेंज। और आज हम स्टार्ट करेंगे इसके पार्ट 1 से। नाउ बिफोर वी स्टार्ट सम कॉमन, ठीक है, नोटिफिकेशंस हैं। वेरी फर्स्ट इज़ डोंट यूज़ शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स एंड सेकंड इज़ प्लीज़ मेक नोट्स अकॉर्डिंगली, ठीक है, and along with the video. If you have any problems, you can write it in the comment section. If you have any recommendations, you can write it in the comment section, and we will make sure that we will uh, put up a video, or we'll make sure to reply. That's for sure. Okay, and to solve your problems. So, without any further ado, let's start with the topic. Now, we will start with social reform movements in 19th and early 20th century. Okay, so now before we start, we need to know that these social reform movements, why did it come about or how did it come about? ठीक है, पहले तो आए क्यों, और जैसे आए वो तो हमें पता है किन फॉर्म्स में आए, ठीक है, बट क्यों आए? बिकॉज उस टाइम पे आवर इंडियन सोसाइटी, it was suffering from certain social evils such as sati, child marriage, widow remarriage and caste discrimination. अब ये evils हमारी society में उस time पे थे and they were challenging us, and so what happened was social reform movements came about to challenge these evils. Okay, अब जनरली कहा जाता है, लाइक वी नो कि कॉलोनियल रूल्स के टाइम ही व्हाट हैपेंड वाज कि सती के अगेंस्ट, चाइल्ड मैरिज के अगेंस्ट, मतलब इनके लिए रूल्स निकाले गए। बट डोंट फॉरगेट दैट इट इज़ नॉट ओनली द कॉलोनियल इंडिया जिसने फाइट किया है कॉलोनियल इंडिया के दौरान, ठीक है, कुछ रिफॉर्मर्स ने फाइट किया है, ऐसा नहीं है। ड्यूरिंग प्री कॉलोनियल इंडिया ऑल्सो इट वॉज देयर. For example, fighting such evils was central to Buddhism. We all know why Buddhism came into existence, because it wanted to challenge जो prevalent Brahmanical मतलब understanding of life थी. Okay, so it challenged it. So Bhakti and Sufi movements also. So Buddhism, Bhakti and Sufi movements, they tried to fight these evils in their own ways, but this was during pre-colonial times. Colonial में we know that many social reform movements came about, and so social reforms during this, especially the 19th century, they were a creative combination of modern ideas of Western liberalism and a new look on traditional literature. See, whenever you need to understand कि कोई रिफॉर्म आया है, ठीक है, कोई भी जब भी कोई रिफॉर्म आता है ना, स्पेशली इंडियन सोसाइटी में, आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू इंग्लिश जो था, इट वॉज, इसका एक अनइंटेंडेड कॉन्सिक्वेंस क्या था? वेरी फर्स्ट वॉज कि सी पीपल गॉट एजुकेटेड, राइट, बट देन पीपल वर इंट्रोड्यूस टू मैग्नानिमस लिटरेचर, मतलब पूरे वर्ल्ड का लिटरेचर दे कुड रीड एंड दे रियलाइज्ड, ठीक है, उनको आइडियाज़, वेस्टर्न लिबरलिज्म, इन सब मॉडर्न आइडियाज से वो इंट्रोड्यूस हुए, एंड दे स्टार्टेड हैविंग दिस न्यू आउटलुक ऑन ट्रेडिशनल लिटरेचर, ठीक है. सो दे ट्राइड अंडरस्टैंडिंग इट. रिफॉर्म्स क्यों आते हैं? बिकॉज पीपल फाइंड समथिंग रॉन्ग विद इट, एंड सोसाइटी एज अ होल, तो पूरी सोसाइटी को तो नहीं लगता ना कि ये चीज़ गलत है. देर आर सर्टन पीपल, देर आर सर्टन रिफॉर्मर्स हु थिंक अबाउट इट. ओके, सो रिफॉर्म्स केम टू फाइट सच ईवल्स. अब इसमें क्या था? इट वॉज अ वेरी, यू कैन से इट वॉज अ कॉम्बिनेशन, इट वॉज अ मिक्सचर, ठीक है, ऑफ बोथ वेस्टर्न एंड ट्रेडिशनल आइडियाज, to understanding in that sense. Okay, so let's move forward. Satish Sabharwal, he says, he elaborates 3 aspects of to the modern framework of change in colonial India. अब इनकी जो explanation है colonial India की, ठीक है, it goes about 3 changes, 3 aspects ये बात करते हैं. Very first is modes of communication, okay, forms of organization and nature of ideas. So let's understand. See, now modes of communication. Modes of communication का क्या था? See, if you think, अभी जैसे हम think about those times जहाँ पे फ़ोन ना हो, like we are socially connected, okay, especially इस time पे कोरोना वायरस times, if it wasn't there, if you wouldn't have gotten newspapers, if there was no print media, no electronic media, okay, so how would things be? नाउ जो न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज थी एट दैट टाइम, उन्होंने क्या किया, कम्युनिकेशन लाए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल प्रिंटिंग प्रेस आई, टेलीग्राफ आया, माइक्रोफोन आया, पीपल एंड गुड्स की मूवमेंट भी हुई. ठीक है, रेलवेज, क्योंकि रेलवेज थे. सो जैसे कि आई एम ऑलरेडी टेलिंग यू कि जो मॉडर्न सिनेरियो में अगर हम देखें ये सब चीज़ें अगर नहीं होंगी तो यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू कम्युनिकेट. ठीक है, बिकॉज नॉट एवरीबडी इन योर फैमिली स्टेज टुगेदर, सम पीपल स्टे फार ऑल्सो. तो बात तो करनी है, तो कम्युनिकेशन के लिए उस टाइम पे बेसिकली व्हाट हैपेंड वाज न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज वर ब्रॉट अबाउट और उनसे कम्युनिकेशन बढ़ा है. ओके, ना कम्युनिकेशन बढ़ने से क्या हुआ है, टेक्नोलॉजी बढ़ने से. टेक्नोलॉजी इज रेलवे ऑल्सो, रेलवे कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑल्सो वॉज अ बिग मेजर स्टेप. तो उससे क्या हुआ है, मूवमेंट ऑफ पीपल हुई है, मूवमेंट ऑफ गुड्स हुई है, एंड दैट समवेयर हैज helped Britishers also and helped India also. And in the long run, it has resulted in globalization also. Okay. So, second, let's talk about social organizations. See, many organizations were formed. There was this Brahmo Samaj in Bengal. There was Arya Samaj in Punjab. See, what happened was, many social organizations, okay, they came up with the idea, they also wanted to reform society, and they found certain evils. ठीक है, for example, idolatry नहीं होनी चाहिए, things like these. We have All India Muslim Ladies Conference, अंजुमन ख्वातन इस्लाम, ये 1914 में हुआ है. and Indian reformers debated, okay, they debated कि मतलब जो भी चेंज आना है, जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बननी है, जो भी चेंजेस आने हैं, वो डिबेट किए जाते थे. बट हाउ वर दिस डिबेट्स टेकिंग प्लेस देन? थ्रू मीडिया. विच मीडिया? It was not the electronic media, that's for sure. It was newspapers and journals. So print media helped a lot during colonial times. And what happened was, there were many writings which were translated also from one language to another. See, अब when things start translating, no, abhi communication, very first step is communication is starting. Print media is, coming about and it's helping. जब print media आ रहा है तो what is happening, कहीं ऐसा literature होता है जो आपकी अपनी language में होगा, but it's very rich. Okay, so those literatures, those books and art, that literature was also translated to different languages, so people from different languages could read it. So here again there is this transfer of ideas, movement of ideas, and this was also taking place simultaneously, so let's not forget this. Accordingly, see, we've talked about the organization and we've talked about communication, how it changed things. Now let's talk about how new ideas changed things. We have liberalism and freedom. Okay, homemaking and marriage, people started thinking differently. Like mothers, which were basically for child rearing before then, they had new roles for both mothers and daughters, because women also took part, they also took part in the colonial, in the struggle against colonial rule in India. So new ideas of self-conscious pride and culture and tradition emerged. See, until and unless you have respect for what you are, okay, like if you stand, if you just think about your own self, ठीक है, आपका अपना culture है, you have your own tradition. Now everybody has their own tradition, everybody has their own culture. You have to be proud of it. Okay, you have to have that pride in your culture and tradition, because it is only because of this pride that you will you will stand up against any rule against you. Okay, so in India also this only happened. Indians, they were introduced to new ideas of pride for their own culture, which initially they considered as like Britishers did not consider Indians as as a race equal to their own. तो जब ये self conscious pride आती है, then things starts changing, ideas come up. Okay, so next is value of education. See, now you are also studying, so you are also being introduced to different ideas. So education is very important. Why? Because nation को modern बनाने के लिए education is important, but also to retain its ancient heritage. If you are not educated, even if there is humongous amount of literature available in your country, as rich a heritage in India, as rich a country as India, even if you have magnanimous literature, then also you'll not be able to read because you're not educated enough. So being educated is important because education will not only help you become modern. How? By introducing you to different ideas, to modern ideas like liberalism, but also to keep your ancient heritage, because you need to read those also. Okay, this will come up. This will come up with this. Now, then only people will come up with a creative combination of both traditional and Western ideas. Okay, so basically, reform movements were a mix of these. Okay, so there were many attempts made to justify female education, and through modern methods also and traditional ideas also, because some people considered that it was, you know, before the colonial times, during the pre-colonial period, women used to get educated. There were different ideas, different theories, and people started attempting to justify female education. Abhi Jyotiba Phule opened the first school for women in Pune. Okay, now reformers argued that for a society to progress, women had to be educated. ठीक है, जैसे कि some people believed कि pre modern India में women were educated. Okay, Jyotiba Phule, he recalled the glory of pre-Aryan age, whereas Bal Gangadhar Tilak emphasized on the glory of Aryan period. So, though these reformers, they had their own similarities and differences. कई points पे they will stand together and कहीं पे they'll differentiate. Okay? But why? Because of their own understanding, their own interpretation of whatever they are reading, whatever they are being introduced to. Okay, so in other words, what happened was 19th century reform initiated a period of questioning, reinterpretation, and both intellectual and social growth. Let's understand this here. Okay, now here what I'm trying to say is that 19th century initiated a period of questioning. Abhi, see, when you start let's understand this ways. Okay, जब भी कोई change आता है, okay, imagine there is a change coming. Very first step will be you will start questioning. आपको सबसे पहले तो question करना पड़ेगा कि जो भी चीज़ हो रही है, presently हो रही है, वो क्यों हो रही है, right? Change के लिए सबसे पहले you need to question what is happening first. Question क्या? You start reinterpreting the things. Okay, and उससे क्या होती है? Intellectual growth भी होती है, social growth भी होती है. For example, अभी female education की बात की है, तो let's talk about women. Nowadays, what is happening? There is this trend where women want to work and women want to be successful. And though many have come forward, but still there is huge potential for women to be successful. So सबसे पहले what happens is women start questioning, why aren't they allowed to study, why aren't they allowed to go out, or why do they have to come back at a particular time, right? तो उसको क्या करना है? Then you reinterpret it. How? कि people, you might say that there were many women scholars in ancient India. That is also one interpretation. Yeah, if ancient India believed that, so why would we not believe today? We have to change for the better, right? So that ways you will grow intellectually also, and social growth will also happen. But you need to realize social growth is not one day change. It is a very gradual change. Okay, so this is how things change, right? Let's move forward. Social reform movements had both common themes and significant differences. We've already understood it. I already told you that now these movements were common also and were differentiated also. Now for some, the concerns were confined to upper caste. अब कई लोगों की problem जो थी ना, वो upper caste, मतलब like अगर upper caste की problem है तो वो उनकी problem है, middle class की problem है, women की problem है, men की problem, तो वो उनकी problem है. उसके अलावा they were not, that was their sphere of understanding of change. Some other considered कि जो discrimination है caste के लिए, that also need to be questioned, and that also need to be reformed in a society like ours. Some thought that all these evils, they emerged because Hinduism declined. See, अभी सोच को नहीं रोक सकते हैं, ठीक है? So there are many interpretations, there are many thoughts about the same thing. One was this: some considered that this caste and gender oppression, this came intrinsic to religion. ये religion हमारा ऐसा है, that is why हमारे में oppression है caste and gender का. Likewise, even social reformers, जो Muslim social reformers थे, they also started debating the meaning of polygamy and parda system. So all this, all reform movements के साथ क्या आता है? Reform, now there can be this one person, ठीक है? अभी लोग कहते हैं कि like when I say that some people considered the problems of our upper caste as problems and some other considered caste discrimination as a problem. Why? Because they lived in that sphere of the society, ठीक है? तो उनको अपने sphere of जो problem है उनको पता है. So we can say that they had both the common themes and significant differences also. Let's move forward. Let's understand. See, in this chapter, we are going to study Sanskritization, modernization, secularization, and westernization. Okay. But before we start, let's understand how are we going to approach it. And we will start these concepts from the next video. And like Sanskritization is a big topic. So that will be the next video. That will be the part 2. And maybe we'll then follow up by modernization, secularization, westernization can be together. Okay, so let's start. Now, last chapter we talked about colonial modernity, right? It had its own paradoxes. Okay, for instance, Western education. See, education example is very important when you need to talk about unintended consequences. Okay, क्यों? उससे क्या हुआ है? English educated Indian middle class आई है forward. Okay, and they read about thinkers, Western enlightenment जो है, liberal democracy है, and they dreamt of an India where India which was liberal and which was progressive, okay, which was not haunted by evils prevalent at those times. So modernity did not bring about merely new ideas, but also rethinking and reinterpretation of tradition. Okay, so this is a very good definition of modernity also. In present times also what happens is see, first let's understand, like both culture and tradition are living entities. People learn them and in turn modify them. Now let's understand this. Like this is a very I would say an ideal or a very practical understanding of modernity in a society like ours in the present times too. For example, any change you would like to bring, you might just think about any one thing you would like to change in your life, and how would that change come? सबसे पहले तो you need to have an idea. If you don't have an idea, you will never know in life कि आपके साथ कुछ गलत हो रहा है, ठीक है? So if you are in a society and you think a particular thing is it's not good and it should change, तो आपके पास वो idea आएगा that you want it to change. Abhi see, the change is very, it is a very big term when it comes to a gradual changing society like India. तो आप क्या करेंगे? Especially if you want to change your grandmother or somebody, what will you try? You will try to change her using her own customs, using her own understanding of religion. ठीक है? And you will try and interpret whatever is written. See, what's written is written, but you need to interpret it according to your times. Okay, so that is why reinterpretation is done of every text. So whatever you read, you might interpret it totally differently because you live in a totally different time. So modernity, it is not just about new ideas, but also rethinking and reinterpretation. So culture and tradition are living entities. Why? Why are they living entities? Because people learn them and in turn modify them. There are many traditions which have been modified. So let's just think about, during ancient India, there was this sacrificial practices prevalent in, some religions, right? Now also sacrifices take place, but now it's usually animals, and that also has reduced. Now it's usually that you just say that we've sacrificed and you just don't. Okay? And see, changes. These are the changes. So people learn them and they modify them according to their times. Okay? You have to make sure that you're understanding it in this way. Now, India's structural and cultural diversity is self-evident. अभी सी हमारा जो स्ट्रक्चरल डाइवर्सिटी है और जो कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी है, नाउ यू आर लिसनिंग टू दिस वीडियो, यू माइट बिलोंग टू अ डिफरेंट कल्चर ऑल टुगेदर, राइट? सो दिस डाइवर्सिटी इज व्हाट शेप्स the different ways that modernization, westernization, sanskritization or secularization affects or does not affect different groups of people. अभी देखिए, ये जो modernization है, जो westernization है, sanskritization है, secularization है, now let's take this for an example. Let's take two people, maybe one can be me and other can be anybody who's listening to this video. Now both of us, we belong to different groups, okay, culturally, traditionally. So like it is obvious that modernization might have different effects on both of us. Westernization also might have different effects on us. Sanskritization, secularization too. Maybe a person lives in Bombay and the other person just lives in a village. Okay, so many changes will have effects and some will not even have effects. So in this chapter, we are going to study about Sanskritization, modernization, secularization, and westernization. The next video will be on Sanskritization, and the part will be uploaded very soon, because this part was also uploaded soon, I believe. Okay, so if you have any recommendations, do write it in the comment section. I hope you're understanding the video, and thanks a lot for all your support. Until then, please stay safe, stay home, and study hard. Thank you.